Hi, I'm Mallory from AniMal Advice, and I wanted to talk about a question that is really common among cat owners. Why is my cat peeing outside the litter box? So while this could be a medical issue, there's a few other things that you can take into consideration. Litter box hygiene, behavioral issues, things that could be going on that could be contributing to this problem, especially if it's something that happens very occasionally and isn't something that's out of the blue happening all the time. These are some things to consider before or in addition to taking your pet to the vet. One of the biggest things I think that people don't realize when they have cats or when they have a cat is how many litter boxes they should have. So the general rule of thumb is 1 litter box per cat plus 1. So even if you only have 1 cat, it's still recommended that you have 2 litter boxes for 1 cat. So then you have 4 or 5 cats, you should probably have 6 litter boxes. They're very clean animals and they can be a little bit picky. So if you want to set them up to succeed as best you can, 1 litter box per cat and then add 1. If you do have multiple cats, you also want to make sure that they're all playing nicely with each other and that you don't have a bully that's keeping the other cats away from the sandbox. So if they've got one that's claiming the 1 or 2 litter boxes that you have, then they're going to feel like they have to avoid it. If they're the submissive one and the other one is being a bully, not letting them have access to the litter box all the time when they may need it, you may end up with them going outside, going near the litter box, going in the bathtub, maybe going somewhere else in the house entirely. But you do want to make sure that all of your pets are getting along and that everyone has access to the litter boxes. And also too, it doesn't matter how many you have if you don't clean them often enough. So just like if we were to use the bathroom and only flush a toilet once a week, you'd probably start avoiding using that toilet. Maybe you'd avoid using that bathroom altogether because it's just kind of gross. And again, cats are pretty clean animals. So if the litter box is full, they're like, hey, this is at capacity. I'm just going to go nearby. I'm just going to go right outside it. That's a big concern people have, is like, they know where they're supposed to go. They're going right outside the litter box. What's up with that? And so it may just be that it's not clean enough for them, you know? So whether you clean it every day, every other day, depends on, again, how many cats do you have and how often it gets full. Clean it every day if you can. Clean it every other day, especially if you've got the adequate amount of litter boxes. You should be good. You also always want to consider, where is the litter box? So if you have it in a really high traffic area where there's constantly activity, constantly people walking by, constantly a bunch of noise being made, that could be another reason why your cat might be avoiding it. Whether they're getting scared or whether they just don't prefer it, whatever it is, if there's a ton of people there all the time, they're not going to want to be nearby. So you want it a little bit out of the way, and most people want it out of the way anyway because it's a litter box. It's not, it's not always going to smell great. But on that same note, you don't want to put it so far away that the cat who wants to hang out with the family has to go to the bathroom and all of a sudden they have to travel down 3 flights of stairs to find their litter box in this dark corner of the basement where they're all alone. And, if it's that far away, how often is it getting cleaned? All that stuff. So just think about your cat, think about your personality of your cat, and think about the layout of your house and where the best access for them would be for a litter box. Not only where it's located, but what else is around it too. So if you're putting it right next to a washer and dryer, a lot of people would think that a laundry room is kind of a normal place for a litter box. But if you're putting it right by all that, and again, you have a nervous cat or a finicky cat, because they are finicky, and they have to use the bathroom when the dryer's running or the washing machine's making all kinds of crazy noise, they might tend to avoid that once in a while when that's happening, and it could be why it's so intermittent and not every time. If you have band practice over at your house, putting it like 2 feet away from the drum set, probably not the best place for a litter box. And then you get to the actual litter box itself. So probably not as big as some of the other ones, but there's still some significant issues with the litter boxes themselves. One thing that a lot of people don't think about at all is they want a covered litter box because it's, oh, maybe the cat is gonna like it more, it's more privacy, it keeps the smell in better, it keeps the litter in so the litter's not flying everywhere. But if that opening isn't wide enough, or if you have a larger cat, then come wintertime, all the static electricity builds up on their fur, and when they go through the litter box opening, they actually get a shock. And so, as you can imagine, that would not be very fun if you got a static shock every time you had to use the bathroom. You'd probably start avoiding it too. So, not that you can't have a covered litter box or you can't have something like that, but just pay attention, you know, and maybe just watch your cat, or again, think about how big your cat is, how big is the opening, what's the humidity in your house, all that kind of stuff can contribute to why they wouldn't want to go through that opening. Another thing that has to do with the actual litter box itself would be if it's very high. An advantage of having a tall litter box that's 8 or 10 inches deep is that you can put more litter in it and you can go a little bit longer in between changing and scooping it out and everything. But if you have a cat that's, you know, getting to be middle-aged, or if you have a cat that's ever had any kind of injury, they might not be able to actually physically get in the litter box anymore. So if it's never been a problem their whole life, but then the last couple years they've started peeing outside the box, you know, even if nothing's changed, I didn't change their litter, we didn't get new boxes, you know, everything's the same. All of a sudden they won't use the litter box sometimes. It could be that they're uncomfortable, or that they're physically have a hard time getting into the box. Lastly, the litter itself. Obviously a pretty big deal. Certain cats are just not going to like certain litters. They just won't. It might be too dusty. They might not like the smell of it. They might not like the way it feels. Maybe it clumps up too much in between their toes, or whatever. So if the cat is newer to you, you may need to try a couple different litters out. If this is happening and it's only started happening since you changed a litter because you wanted to change it up and see how a new litter might work better, you might have to go back to the old one for a little while and see if the issue takes care of itself, because just because it's in their litter box doesn't mean they're going to want to use it. And there's a lot of options for litter on the market, so it can be overwhelming, but you may need to switch litters, try a different type of litter, and see if they prefer that more. So these are just a few not so much medical related problems that could happen, that could be causing your cat to pee or poop outside the litter box. So hopefully going through these gives you a few places to start if you're having issues with your cat using the litter box. Of course, one of the big things that could be going on is a medical problem, so it's always good to check with your veterinarian, make sure your cat's in good shape. There's a lot of things that can cause them to be peeing and pooping outside the litter box. Bladder infections obviously are going to cause problems with the litter box and with their urinating. Sometimes constipation though can even cause urinary problems. Everything's kind of connected down there. It's all linked. If they're in pain, I mentioned that, so like arthritis or a back injury or a leg injury. There's a lot of reasons your cat just might not be feeling good enough to want to get into the box. So a good physical exam regularly, and then especially if they're having problems, you want to get them looked at. But this is something that you can start with if everything seems to be going okay, if they're eating and drinking normally, if they don't seem to be in pain while they're using the litter box, they're not crying, you're not seeing any blood anywhere when they're trying to pee or anything like that. These might be some tips that can help you solve the problem. If you're not sure if any of this stuff at your house is set up the way it should or shouldn't be, take this list into your vet office and go through some of it with them and talk with them and see what they think with your cat, with your setup of your house. Are any of these a problem? If you're not sure, it might be something nice to talk to the vet about, in addition to just getting a wellness exam done. I would love to hear from you in the comments if your cats have had any issues like this, if you've had any problems that changing some of this stuff helped. If there's something else you tried, something different that I didn't mention, let us know down in the comments. Let me know, help other cat owners think of some other options. Would love to hear your stories. I'm Mallory from AniMal Advice, and I'll talk to you later.